They really need to work on the speaker system at the Santiago Bernabeu. Despite them blaring Hala Madrid for the second time in 3 days following a loss, the boos were deafening. Before we go any further, Real Madrid are still on track for automatic qualification in the Champions League. They're only slightly trailing a Barcelona side that can implode at any moment, and they have maybe the best player on the planet in their team. Now that that's out the way, Donatello is injured, and things aren't looking good for Xabi Alonso. Ever since he made the leap to first-tier football management only 3 years ago and started doing pretty well, the tabloids couldn't help but proclaim that the man was destined for Real Madrid as the head coach. Pep Guardiola, Carlo Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho, Rafael Benitez, Luis Aragonés, and Vicente Del Bosque have all acted as mentor for Alonso. So, when he won the league with Leverkusen in only his second season as a first-team coach, breaking Bayern Munich's dominance and losing only one game the entire season in all competitions, it became a matter of when and not if. And yet, only 6 months into the job, and it seems as though what was once a dream has quickly turned into something not quite as pleasant. At this club, it's number one or nothing. The number of managers that have been ousted for anything less is countless at this point. I mean, you can count them, I'm just being dramatic. Barcelona are just happy that most of the bad attention isn't on them right now. The other day, Deco, Barcelona's sporting director, was talking about how Rashford was overplayed at Manchester United from a very young age, and that's the reason why he burnt out due to the pressure. Big man. The mirror is right there, you need to look at it. Alonso joins the list of managers at big clubs this season that have been given assurances that their position is safe, despite periods of poor performances. And just like everyone else on that list, we have to wonder what's really going on. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, welcome back. At the time of recording this, Madrid have only won twice in their last 8 games in all competitions. I know I said we have to be careful when calling this a crisis, but then again, by Madrid standards, like I said, it's definitely not looking good right now, and there are a lot of things going on. The Manchester City game was a distilled version of a lot of those things too. Madrid start brilliantly, Rodrigo scores after a 33-game drought, hugs Alonso on the touchline, and then they self-destruct. Courtois spills a routine header, City score. Antonio Rudiger wrestles Haaland to the ground for no reason, City score. Against Celta Vigo, they had chances early again, but a lack of decisiveness and discipline and 2 red cards from Madrid players led to the first league victory for Celta Vigo at the Bernabeu since 2006. And thanks to 2 goals that they really shouldn't be conceding like that, we have videos like this one. And speaking of 2006, you know what else happened that year? It was a World Cup year. This video was sponsored, by the way. The group stage fixtures for the big one just dropped, and I'm eyeing the opener. Mexico versus South Africa, a rerun of that iconic opener from 2010. These Hollywood scriptwriters are getting really lazy with the reboots. Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek, the ticketing app I'll be using, and there are 70,000 events, concerts, sports festivals, and more for you to choose from. You can use SeatGeek to grab seats early and enjoy the football instead of stressing about tickets. Funnily enough, I actually used SeatGeek for the first time just over a year ago, watching my first ever NBA game. Warriors vs Lakers at the Chase Center, and every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. If you're heading to the US for the World Cup next summer, we've got a very big discount for you. You can get $30 off any purchase for World Cup tickets of $200 or more with the code FootballIconic using the link in the description. That's $30 off any World Cup tickets after spending $200 with promo code Football Iconic. Thanks so much to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. Of course, they help me keep the lights on to keep making this kind of content, so why not show them some love for that? And with that, let's get back to the video. So what's going wrong at Madrid right now? A few things of note. We'll try to go through them piece by piece. First things first, let's start with the big hospital bed-sized piece in the dressing room. The injury list is brutal. Madrid must be wondering what they did to deserve the kind of luck they've been having with big Premier League transfers. Just like Hazard, another high-profile player has come in and their body seems to have clocked out as soon as they donned the famous white. And Trent Alexander-Arnold certainly isn't the only one here. In the last month alone, Madrid players have been dropping like flies. Dani Carvajal, Antonio Rudiger, Eder Militao, David Alaba. Honestly, those last 2, I'm actually more surprised these days when they're fit. Dean Huijsen, Ferland Mendy, Eduardo Camavinga, Camavinga, Aurelien Tchouameni, Federico Valverde, Kylian Mbappe, who of course broke his finger fighting crime in a sewer the other day and also apparently has some muscular discomfort in his left leg. Franco Mastantuono is also within that list. Now, some of these players have already returned from injury. Like I said, this is over the course of about a month or so, but the rate that it's happening, it's quite alarming. And you'll notice that most of the players, the majority of the players I just mentioned were all defenders. And then on top of all of that, we have Fran Garcia and Alvaro Carreras both being sent off versus Celta Vigo, leaving Xabi Alonso with just a massive headache across his defensive line. A defensive line, mind you, that is conceding and making a lot of mistakes lately. Is Xabi's so-called demise purely down to these injuries, and how at fault is he here? Is it his training methods? Is it the medical and recovery staff? Is it a general fatigue onset within this Madrid squad quite early on, not even within probably the most busy period that's going to come for this Madrid squad, which will be later on in the year? What it is an inability for Xabi to effectively rotate and a quite literally shattered squad. Are the tactics at fault, perhaps? Xabi's garnered a reputation as a coach that loves a system. Extreme width, angles that favor the half spaces and creating channels between the lines, compact blocks out of possession. Now, there is at least one player that is thriving under this systematic approach. The team is more or less built to free up and find Kylian Mbappe. He already has 25 goals in 21 games all season, 16 in 16 in the league. Now, these setups have been very successful for Xabi in the past, but it seems that the adjustments and, perhaps even the player reactions are really letting him down. For example, against the Celta game, the pressing triggers, the shapes in possession, they seemed somewhat inconsistent. This sequence led to the first goal, and Güler was not the only one at fault here. Celta basically sauntered their way through Madrid's defense. Both goals against City could have been avoided. Both were dead ball scenarios. But again, let's bring this right back down to reality. Madrid aren't anywhere near the defensive disaster that some people want you to believe that they are. We compare them to their counterparts in their own league and we can see just that. Barcelona, for their part, have conceded 5 more than them at the time of recording. In La Liga, they've conceded 15 goals in 16 games, which makes them joint second in the league just behind Villarreal for best defense, joint with Atletico Madrid and Alaves, who coincidentally, they're about to play. And 5 of the goals they've conceded have come in the last month during one of the worst defensive injury crises in all of Europe. In any case, from an overarching perspective, the message from Alonso has been clear. He insists that nobody is untouchable within this team, which is a fine principle to have. But is it a fine principle to have at a team like Real Madrid? I'm not entirely sure. We've seen the common rhetoric that's been told about this Madrid side lately, where Madrid are better with managers that allow the players to really express themselves and do what they do best and do what they want to do and be who they want to be. We have Zinedine Zidane, Carlo Ancelotti, even Jose Mourinho to an extent. He's a very rigid manager, but when he was managing Madrid, there were a lot of freedoms that he gave the squad in allowing them to really attack and express themselves, which is something that a lot of these Madrid players apparently don't feel that they're being given. One such is Vinicius Jr. He's obviously not happy with his role in the squad, which has him sharing his favorite positions on the pitch with Mbappe. I say sharing, but we all know who really takes preference here. Clips like this one right here are quite common. Probably the most infamous example of his disapproval of what's been going on was when he was substituted during El Clasico and was visibly feuding with Xabi Alonso as he walked off the pitch. It's things like that that make people believe and gives the impression that there is this big rift right now. And even though we have a lot of reports saying that there are compromises that are being made for Vinicius to play where he wants to play, it really does make you wonder if that will be enough. Rodrigo was unfortunately always going to be the biggest loser in the Mbappe-Vini show. What happens when you have 2 of, let's say, the top 3 left-sided attackers in the world and also one who is probably around top 5 at his best? You know who gets the short end. And it's clearly affecting his game when he actually does play. As we touched on earlier, before scoring versus Man City, Rodrigo had gone 33 Real Madrid games without a goal. He was apparently only 1 minute away from the all-time record for active Madrid attackers to not score. That record belongs to one Rafa Marañón with 1,416 minutes without a goal. He last played for Madrid in 1974. Apologies, big man, but your legacy, it lives on. Jude Bellingham hasn't been playing particularly badly per se, but due to the poor run of results, we are seeing that side of him that a lot of people know about, but that people don't really dwell on all too much. That petulant side, that sore loser side, crying at the referee for all these calls, trying to rile up opponents. Me personally, I don't really have that much of a problem with it. He's a professional athlete. The emotions run high in these sorts of situations. But the English press, oh wow, they do not like it at all. He's just, you know, he's too petulant. Imagine if this guy plays in the Premier League at one point. Wow, the media circus that's going to create. Post-City game, Bellingham stressed that the squad is united and fully behind Alonso. The manager is great. I personally have an excellent relationship with him, and I know many of my teammates do too. Nobody is giving up. Nobody is complaining. I don't know about the full truth of that entire statement. The player power situation at Madrid is hard to ignore or dismiss. The narrative is that the dressing room is, and I guess has always been, full of divas. Madrid lost both Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, quite the opposite of this in back-to-back windows, and replaced neither of them. Replacing guys like this is incredibly difficult to do. I hazard to say that it will actually never be done. These people were incredibly unique. You're never going to get another Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. But still, I think it's easy to see why there's this narrative out there that the leadership and the control, the lack of such in the dressing room, is one of the reasons for this really bad period for the squad. Perhaps I don't know too much about each individual personality within this Madrid squad well enough, but I don't see that kind of calm and presence coming from the current senior guys like Carvajal, for example. But back to guys like Modric and Kroos and the problems that have been created by lacking these kinds of players, the team doesn't have this ability to slow down games and control the tempo like they used to, especially right now in times of this really visibly weaker makeshift back line. We've got Bellingham, Valverde, Tchouaméni, Camavinga all rotating roles when they're fit, at least. It doesn't seem to be enough. It doesn't seem to align with how Alonso wants to play. So right now, Alonso's Madrid have a lot of problems. Injuries, a potentially disjointed locker room, not enough structure to be defensively watertight, but still not chaotic enough to fully lean into the often raucous Bernabeu energy and allow their star players to shine the way they want to. As we've already said, there are conflicting statements regarding job security for Alonso. None of us know what to believe and what is true. We saw reports saying that the Man City game was make or break. Well, they lost it at home, and I haven't seen a comunicado yet. Have you guys? The circus is only really just getting warmed up, and I for one won't be surprised if we hear Zinedine Zidane's theme music playing pretty soon. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about Real Madrid, their current crisis and everything going on. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.